Okay, well, we've got the towel on there to cover up the installing company name. I'm never out to throw anyone under the bus, but if you look at what we got here, we're at 720 pounds, about ready to trip my it's giving me a warning on my testos. 154 discharge temp. Always make sure your service valves are open. They're open. I checked them. I'm not the first man out on the job, and it was installed over the summer. So what you need to really make sure to do is make sure that this unit is not overcharged, because I am getting that temp. If I had a problem with my EEVs, I really wouldn't get that temperature through to my lines, and I'm getting 156 degree discharge temp. This unit's popping up on a P4 error, which is a inverter compressor fault, which in other cases I found it to be the discharge line temperature too hot, which, you know, is an indication of being overcharged. But let's not assume. What we're going to do is we're going to set up our scale and we're going to pull it out and make sure what's in here. This thing's got a short line set, so it really shouldn't have anything additional in it. 4.5 or 4.3. We're going to see what's going on. Here's all your info if you want to have it. But we're almost at 800 pounds. So something's going on. Let's go find out. Let's get our stuff, hook it up, and then I'll kick you back on while we're pulling it down. Okay, we're all hooked up to recover. We're zeroed out. See where I can get this so you can see it in a better spot. We're zeros right now. We'll start up the recovery. And if you remember, we're hoping to only see about 4.3. But if we go back and I look at the gauges where we were just working at, and I go to my max, which at 805 pounds, my testos started giving me a warning. First time I've ever seen that. So I'm gonna pull this down and we're gonna see how we're working. See what we get, kids. Give you a little sneak. We're at, apologize about the glare, 2 pounds 7. Lots of pressure left in there. I'm going to take this off for us. There you go. Reason I'm going through all this and spending this extra time is to really try to make people aware that if you are not sure of the charge on this equipment, you know, unless you're dealing with a 30-string VRF system or something, just pull the gas out of it and start over and make sure everything's right. It's not acceptable in my eyes to start throwing parts at stuff. So, and what I mean by that is I was sent out here with a control board, condenser fan motor. I'm already at 4 pounds 6 ounces. I'm at the factory charge right now, and I'm still running over 108 psi, 109. So I'm gonna let this run all the way so we see what really was in this girl, uncut. Very important that you charge these right. When you can really only check the charge in a cooling mode by checking the superheat, and you you're really only going to verify that it has enough refrigerant for the given circumstances, meaning the temperature outdoors and the load inside. Your superheat's going to, you know, come down with these EEVs to usually around, I'm going to, you know, give you a ballpark of around 5 degrees of superheat. If you're above 5, you're starving that indoor coil and it's still thirsty. As long as everything's working right. Once you get enough gas in it to where your EEV comes down and your superheat hits bottom, then you should be there. But if you really want to be critical, a lot of this equipment doesn't have dual ports. You're going to have to just pull it out and reweigh it back in. It's your easiest way. You know for sure. When you come out to work on this equipment, do not hook up your recovery machine without a scale. It's great information to know how much refrigerant was in this unit before you started. If I would have come in and done this, I would be back at square one. So that's why in my career, I very rarely follow behind anyone and just put in parts. I always re-diagnose it. So let's see. We're at 6 pounds 5 ounces already. Again, factory charge 4.3, and we're still at 100 psi on our gauges over there. So we got a lot more gas left in this thing to get out. We're gonna get the charge right and run it again, see if our discharge temperature sensor error goes away. I bet we're gonna be all right. We're at 6 pounds 11 already. You may find this impossible to believe, but I had a unit over the summer that held, I think it was around 5 or 6 pounds. I pulled 17 pounds out of that unit. I don't know how they got it all in there. If I hadn't had it on video, there wouldn't be proof. So I'm letting this go. I want it uncut so that the fellow that was out to this job can learn from this. You know, these are heat pumps, so people get really worried and confused. You look at head pressures, the guy's report said that his pressures were a little high. Well, he was saying 700 pounds was a little high. That's way high. Your discharge temperature, as you know, the refrigerants are joined at the hip with temperature and pressure. You're always going to need about 120 degrees or hotter coming out of your heads or whatever it is as a heat pump. So use that as a guide for whatever refrigerant you're using. Look up the comparison to whatever pressure that is, and that's about what pressure you really should be running. Somewhere between, you know, driving you about 120 to 130 degrees of temperature to your head or to your fan coil or whatever it is. If you're running 150, 160, I had 150 some degrees out of this. Heat pumps do not run that hot. You know, that's the major complaint of them. You can't run a system at that high of pressures. I was actually over the test pressures, I think. Where was I at? Yeah. Look at my design and my test pressures. I was 300 over that. I've never had my testos warn me anything. I am at 8 pounds, 7 pounds, 14 ounces on a 4 pound system. And still going. And I say this with a grain of salt. We all need our reps. We all need people to back our product. But in this particular case, from my understanding, if I'm wrong, I'll come back up on this video and I'll update it. But if I'm not mistaken, a rep from somewhere had said that this unit needs a board and a motor. Now, reps do their job good, but they're not techs. So, you know, take it for a grain of salt and don't condemn them. Don't call them names. Don't, you know, throw them under the bus. They're trying to make the customer happy so that it makes your company, you know, good. But nevertheless, I'm telling you, do your due diligence. If you skip steps, you're going to be out here changing a board and a condensing fan motor, start this unit up, and if you got a weak hose, you may literally blow your hoses off your gauges. So that's what I'm telling you. Do your job and do everything right. Best you can. If you don't have the tools, get the tools. We're at double the charge. This unit holds 4 pounds 3. We're at 8 pounds 9 ounces already, and we're still going. We got 52 pounds over there on the testo pressure. So I just give you an insight. I don't need to walk over there again. I just want to get the gas out of this and give you a final number. Again, I'm sure you've seen it, but my max numbers on this was 805 pounds. I'm gonna go back to my standing. Let's get it all out of here and get it right, and I think this fella's gonna be just fine. It's all green. System has dye in it, which is the same as it's telling me on the little tag over here. Someone stuck it in it. So probably whenever it was recharged from the dye situation is when this may have happened. It's like watching paint dry, isn't it? Well, this is what happens. It's like waiting for your delays on your thermostats. Waiting for circulators to cool loops down so we can fire equipment in high speed. All kinds of good stuff. Yep. Okay, I'll be out there in a second. Yep, bye. Now, that's a runner that just called me and said they're bringing me the parts that were recommended. So think about this for a second. There's another tech somewhere that needs parts, and they brought me out stuff that I don't need. So you're wasting resources. You need to make sure you're doing this all right. I'm not saying I'm 100% sure I don't need a board and a motor, but how can I have a board and a motor, put that in it, and have a charge like this when a P4 error is also going to give me the same problem when it's overcharged? But you're going to learn that by only experience, because it's not just plain cut where it says high discharge temperature. Actually, some of the troubleshooting books do say that. So that's why it's real important. You're just wasting a bunch of resources when you throw parts at things. So we're down to 11 psi. We're getting close to the bottom of this barrel, and we're 9 pounds 6 ounces on a 4 pound system. So it's pretty much done there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all this picked up. I'm gonna let this pull the rest of it. I'm gonna go see the parts guy, send my parts back to the shop, and get ready to recharge this thing, and we'll start it back up when I recharge it, so you can see if you don't know how to recharge. See you in a bit. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you see that this is the way this is going. Virgin refrigerant. There's my recovery tank. I could have put it back in. It's probably clean enough, but for 4 pounds, I'd rather just start over. Make sure I don't have anything else that someone else is contaminated or anything like that. And I'm standing out here with it because I may need to kick this thing into the cooling mode. I didn't have it into a vacuum, so I may not be able to get everything in it, but it looks like I might. Remember, I'm trying to get 4 pounds and 3/10 of a pound, so looking at, 4.25, 4 pounds, 4 or 5 ounces. You can do the math and figure it out exactly. Charge is critical, but you get within a couple ounces. I'm at 3.3 right now. I'm probably going to be able to get to all the way to 4. Tank was in the front seat too. I had the heat on it, so my tank was pretty hot. We'll try to do that when it gets colder out. I'm sure you're all aware. When it's cold, man, it's hard to move gas. It's hard to move liquid. Hard to move anything. We get old. I'm almost there. Look at that. I'm gonna go 4 pounds of 4 or 5 ounces. 5 ounces. I'll add a hair for line set. It's not that long, and then I'm gonna shut it off at my tank. So when this is on and running in the cooling mode, I'm gonna be able to pull all the liquid in my gauges and everything into this unit. So that way, I'm not wasting any refrigerant, discharging it, yada yada. De minimis. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick this in an AC, and that way we can get the lines cleared out, and then we'll kick it back into heat pump mode and see what our pressures are and temps. So we've got this unit. Here was my final charge numbers: 4 pounds 5 ounces, and we're in the cooling mode. I swapped over so that I can give you true numbers without trying to confuse you with suction going through a red hose. But anyhow, I'm up checking superheat, and I'm at 115 pound suction, 1.4 superheat. It's going up and it's modulating up and down. But I have no load today. It's cold outside. My fan speed's driven down nice and slow. And again, on this unit, I don't have a high pressure port. Unless I go inside, there may be one in there, but I'm not going that far with that to see what I'm generating from the compressor. But nevertheless, I've got good superheat numbers. It's running good in the cooling mode. We're gonna swap the hose over now and kick this thing into heating mode. And you know, we're gonna look for, this is a tough one, but I'm looking for, right, you know, 120 degrees. It's just basing this, I'm trying not to base it off of like knowledge from the books. I'm just going off of experience for you. It's a heat pump. I need 120 degrees or the people ain't gonna like the air coming out. It's gonna feel cold to the skin. So, you know, 110, 120, you know, that's where you're getting. So let's switch this over, get it into the heat mode, and we'll get back up here. Okay, we're up and running in heat pump mode. You know, I changed the color so it doesn't confuse you. My temperature clamp is just purely that right now, because, you know, obviously I'm not going to pick up sub or super. But well, look at my numbers. To the right, of course, left is just blanked off, but 420 psi. Oh, look at that temperature. Isn't I hate to be a smartass sometimes, but I'm a smartass now and then. 120. So I've got 120 degree liquid refrigerant going into that head. Pretty darn close to what I was looking for. I'm going to let it keep running and then do another checkup on it. I want to let it run for a good 15 minutes or so because the compressor hasn't ramped up real high yet. But it knows that's where it's trying to run to for this point in these conditions and the ambient conditions that are outside. So, all right. There we go. So here we are, final vid. Now I'll make sure I seal everything up nice and tight like you should. So moral of this story is, check your charge. Do your due diligence. Unit's been running for nearly 20 minutes. Actually, it's longer than that. About 35, 40 minutes, I'm sorry. But anyhow, keeping a nice steady 130 degree discharge temp. Head's putting out nice good heat. It's not about 90 degrees in there already. Got good numbers. So obviously, again, ignore the suction side. We're not hooked up to their gas, whatever you want to call it. But nevertheless, good to go. Have a good day, y'all. Woohoo!